Well, I got the filler neck glued in. I put a whole bunch of smaller pieces of mat built up around it there where that pocket is that goes into. It's not completely closed in yet, but I did get the opening closed down, and I put a piece of mat around the tube itself, glued it down to it, or epoxied it in there, and was able to stick it all in there, and it kind of fits in there the way it's supposed to. I had to put a little stick in there to get it to hold in position because that epoxy takes a long time to set up, and it's kind of slippery now. I think it doesn't want to stay where I want it to. So that is holding so far, unless I can get an earthquake or something before it sets up. It should be fine. I still got a lot of fill to do on the inside of it, but I'm going to let this epoxy set up in there now and harden up enough so that everything stays in position when I'm tipping it over and working inside. Anyway, I think that looks pretty good so far. Here's the original filler neck. You see it was in like this. Actually, that would have been in down inside of there. Oh, that far. Oh, that was running into that. Okay, about like that. So that was running into that lower longeron, so this should give me enough clearance here to clear that okay. Well, it didn't take as long as for this piece to stiffen up as it did those other pieces. I don't know why I mixed it up the same, but it's hot in here today. It must be 80 degrees plus. So that's stiffened up. It's holding its own now. It's holding its place. It's still not hard, but it's holding its place. I was able to get that stick out of there that I had holding it in place. I thought that thing was going to be a permanent part of this, but I wiggled it a little bit and got it to come out. I got a little cavity in there now. I'll have to mix some stuff up and fill that up, but I can turn that up now and start doctoring that up inside to make sure that I've got more structure inside there to make sure I've got plenty of support on that thing. It could get hit or something like that and banged and loosened up. There's no real load on it or anything except for the filler neck, unless somebody steps on it or something. If they do, they're going to get a hatchet in the head. I'm going to go ahead and put some more stuff inside of there just to make sure that it's good and stout. Want it German fine, we want it good and tight. It's 7 o'clock in the evening, July 4th. It's still 80 degrees in the shade here. I know some of you folks back there where it's hot, California or Arizona, or I guess back there in the East Coast and the Midwest, it's pretty warm this last week or so. Of course, those poor people back in Montana and Idaho, they got snow overnight. I can remember several times when it snowed in the middle of July down in Idaho in the lowland. Anyway, 2 days ago it was 55 degrees here. And when 55 degrees is t-shirt weather, 80 degrees is pretty much unbearable. Hot, damn hot, so damn hot. A little man in a yellow robe burst into flames in the middle of the street yesterday. I got a big gob of mat and resin there around that filler neck where it comes in. I got it glued in pretty good around the top, and then it's built up real good around the sides. I came out and fared it out quite a ways out around each side and worked it in. I just cut strips of the fiberglass mat and worked a resin into it and got it all matted out or frayed out, and then worked another piece into each one of those as we went around. So it's pretty much a homogeneous mass there. It's quite a buildup in there because this cavity goes down quite a ways into that pocket there, so that's built up quite a ways and around the bottom. This is the last little bit that I did. I just put some in over on this side and kind of brought that up flush with it. This side over here was done earlier, and it's hardened up pretty good. It got enough stuff in there that it got good and hot and cooked out of there. That thing's stuck on there pretty good. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna let that cure, and then tomorrow I'll just trim that up a little bit and take the fuzzies out of that with a die grinder. And then we got to brush up around here on this where that mat is sticking out. I forced that in there with the stick, and I got a little cavity there, of course, where the stick that was holding it on there is. And so there's a little cleanup to do around there, around that neck on the outside, and we'll make some filler to put in there. And I'm pretty happy with the way that looks now, I think. I'll let this set up overnight, let that epoxy resin cure overnight. That stuff is kind of slow curing. Although in there where I had it all built up, it got pretty hot in there and it cured a lot faster. It was actually boiling the stuff out of there. It got so hot I couldn't touch it. It's set up pretty good, and this thing is pretty good. doggone good in there. It's pretty tight. I can't complain about that. So I went out this morning, I took the die grinder and I went down inside and cleaned up all the rough, sharp points that's sticking out and little edges and stuff that got stuck out. So nothing's going to catch anything that'll might grow. No points or anything are going to break off and fall into the fuel line and get plugged up or anything like that. Used a lot of resin in there, or the resin had it kind of run out, pooled up down there in the bottom. I cleaned up a lot of those pools and stuff there. I didn't get too excited with it. I just kind of knocked the high spots down on them. Now I'm going to need some Bondo work, or I'll make some fillet work and fill in this stuff here, get it smoothed out around this thing and fill in the little divots and stuff like that, but otherwise it looks pretty good.